So now, please, I'll just welcome Gulcin back to the stage for the next.
Morning, everybody, and it gives me great pleasure to invite Jasmin Schmitz. Jasmin has a PhD in information science, and she has been working responsible for the publication advisory services at ZB Med, Information Center for Life Sciences. So as you know, the theme of this session is on issues of assessment. So please welcome Jasmin. Thank you, Jasmin.
Yeah, good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for this kind introduction, and thank you very much for having me today. As you might know, there has been going on a lot of discussion about research assessment for quite a long time now. We are discussing whether it's appropriate, our measures are appropriate, if our indicators are appropriate, but it looks as if everything gathers steam now, the whole discussion. And therefore, I analyzed a little bit the position papers that are out now to find out if this discussion is really gathering steam and what we can do all about it and which suggestions are currently on the table. So first of all, the question is, why do we bother at all? Why are we talking about research assessment anyway? Well, there are a lot of situations in the research system where research assessment is necessary. First of all, there is assessing career progression in research. So every time somebody is applying for position, research position, professorship, for example, there is, of course, research assessment. Funders are basing their funding decisions on that. There is a monitoring of ongoing projects by funders, of course, especially if there are longer projects taking a longer time. There is a evaluation at the end of a project by the funder. And, of course, every institution would like to know where they are standing. And so they evaluate their performance, they assess their performance, and compare each other to other institutions in their field or what they are comparing for that field they are famous for. And in general, research assessment is necessary because applicants and proposals outnumber the positions and funding money. It's as easy as that. And in the end, assessment is kind of fundamental for a functioning research system. But we also have to keep in mind that the kind of measurement has a direct influence on a research culture and quality of research. We saw that with the indicators. Everything that can be gamed will be gamed, of course, and we always have to keep in mind when we are looking at the assessment system. And one function of assessment as well is it should secure quality and impact and strengthen trust in science. So this is another important aspect. So what's wrong with the current research assessment practices? I won't read aloud all the, it's a bit blurred, I don't know why. So I delivered proper slides, but do not bother, I will, you can have the slides, of course, and I will not read out all the quotes in the presentation, but if you see it blurred, it's really blurred. It's not because of the reception last night. First, what's wrong with current research practices? The European Commission is quite active in suggesting stuff with regard to research assessment. They are quite active. When it came to the European Open Science Cloud, they also published position papers and reports on research assessment, and also wrote or had an expert group on next level metrics. So they are quite active there for a long time. And 2 years ago, they published a report towards a reformed research assessment system. And in that, they also analyzed what's going on with current research assessment practices. And they found out, and as we all know, there's a strong focus on the number of publications and citations still. There's by the researchers striving for JIF journals, journal impact factor journals, and of course there's a publish and perish culture. And these all hamper quality, integrity, and the trust in science. Plus, during the last years, we, of course, have a discussion about open scholarship, open science, whatever you would like to call it. And this is because of the changes of digitization, which require new tasks or which deliver new tasks which require new skills. We have an information overload. We have multiple kinds of output. We have openness as such, which is regarded as a good, and the issue of accessibility and openness and accessibility are considered as keys to reliability and reproducibility. And of course, on this planet, we have many changes. And we all can only tackle these changes when we work together. So by the means of collaboration and trans and multidisciplinary approaches. And these are all needed to solve these complex problems. And all these aspects I just mentioned are not that well represented in the current research assessment practices. So there's a real need for change. So we now have to turn from research assessment as such to responsible research assessment. And there's a paper, Worry paper written by the Institute of Responsible Research. And they say that as attention shifts from describing these problems towards designing and implementing solutions, efforts are coalescing around the idea of responsible research assessment. This is an umbrella term for approaches to assessment which incentivize, reflect, and reward the plural characteristics of high-quality research in support of diverse and inclusion and research cultures. So there are already some responsible research assessment guidelines, such as DORA, for example. I'm pretty sure a lot of you know them. DORA is dealing with the assessment of research publications and beyond. They say there's more than just a paper, which can be research output. DORA is one of these guidelines. There's the Leiden Manifesto, striving for accountability in metrics-based research principles. There are the Hong Kong principles for focusing on research integrity. And there's the INOMS scope framework, and this is striving for the improvement of research assessment processes. So these are the first suggestions that are already on the table, but there are also written by different stakeholders, many position papers, reports, etc. I just picked a few because for time reasons. And first of all, there are the UNESCO recommendations on open science. Basically, it is on open science, but it also has a few words to say on research assessments, and especially there are areas of action in these papers, and they are suggesting that the member states are encouraged to publish policies, and in such a policies, the member states are also encouraged to encourage again the researchers for responsible research, or that responsible research is incentivized, and that quality science is incentivized, and diverse research outputs, activities and missions as well. So they would like to see that open sciences practices are acknowledged and incentivized. Similar with the European University Association, they published a vision document or agenda document where they also describe their vision for 2025, and in that they also say that they would like to have a responsible and transparent assessment system which also considers open science practices, and that the assessment processes are going away from qualitative indicators to more quantitative assessment procedures, which means basically more peer review. Similar are the statements by the research performance institutions. They would also like that that open sciences practices are evaluated as well, and that there is more transparency of the research assessment process as such. A perspective from the researchers written by the Initiative for Science in Europe, and what they support here, that if researchers are assessed, and if you are doing career assessment, also always the researchers should also sit at the table and should also decide on the indicators they are assessed by. So the key message is here that assess with those who are assessed and ask them what indicators they would like to have and what are the consequences by the indicators. Because as I already said, everything that can be gamed will be gamed, especially when you are striving for incentives or for career assessment. Another position paper that concentrates on the researchers as well, from various stakeholders groups, and what they are doing here is, or what they are stressing here is, that the autonomy of the researchers has to be kept, and the autonomy of the institution when assessing careers is very important. We have a huge discussion in Germany because autonomy of researchers and of the institution of research institution is written in our constitutions, and therefore we have a lot of discussions about how to keep the autonomy of the institution, of the researcher itself, when it comes to assessment of outputs. And last but not least, the position of the funders. And there's a paper by Science Europe, recommendations on research assessment processes, and they say that that you should focus more on the processes and not so much on the indicators and on the criteria, that you make sure that the processes, assessment processes, are transparent, that you constantly evaluate the assessment processes, that you share best practices, that you also tackle the issue of biases, that you consider that there can be biases in the assessment process, that there can be discrimination and unfair treatment, and that you consider this. They also suggest broader criteria for the selection of reviewers, so that the reviewer board is much more diverse, that you streamline processes to reduce the burden of the reviewers, and again, this aspect that you shift from quantitative indicators to more qualitative assessment, and that a broader spectrum of output is considered, and activities as well. As you all know, science and research doesn't only mean to write papers, to produce research data, but there is also teaching obligations and all the other steps. And they also suggest that you strive for novel assessment techniques and that the methodology and the outcomes should be shared as well. Now we have that many position papers from various stakeholders. What we are doing now with that, with this, and again, there's another initiative, not done by the EU, but by an institution. I think Science Europe here is in the lead, to support all these, to support somehow the assessment process. And 2 years ago, there was a paper published on the agreement on reforming research assessment, and this forms the initiative COARA, Coalition for Advancing Research Assessment. And the idea is that research institutions can sign this agreement, and by the end of July, more than 500 institutions all over the globe already signed that. And when they sign this assessment, they agree that there's a need to reform or show that they are aware that there's a need to reform the assessment practices, that there's a need that diverse outputs are recognized, that again, moving away from qualitative judgment to more quantitative, quantitative assessment. All what's already turned up in the position papers is now put into there as well. So their idea is that in order to form real change, there is collaboration necessary, and with this coalition, they would like to support this collaboration because they see that there is progress, there is discussion on research assessment, but progress is uneven and the ongoing efforts are fragmented. And now they would like to help the institutions to move forward on the basis of common principles, and they also would like to diminish the perceived first mover disadvantage, which always hampers kind of change. When you sign this agreement, you agree to a number of principles, and finally these leads also to core commitments, and the idea is that you review your assessment practices within a year, and that you then start the changing process, and that you complete the first cycle by the end of or within 5 years. And if you signed the agreement later, you have additional time. You have this full 5 years. And the core principles are that you recognize a diversity of the research system on every level. Again, more peer review and qualitative evaluation, that you abandon research assessment based on journal-based and publication-based metrics, that you avoid the use of rankings, that you make yourself clear and also plan for extra resources when it comes to reforming the research assessment process, that you review your tools, the tools that you are using, that you raise awareness within your institutions and among those who are assessing and who are assessed, that you facilitate mutual learning, that you communicate the progress, and evaluate practices, criteria, and tools again, and that you make data openly available for evidence gathering and research. Which brings me to the second aspect. For responsible research assessment, we also need a kind of open infrastructure for responsible research assessment. So we not only need the procedures, but we also need indicators, and we have to make sure that when we want to do, or if we would like to do proper open science, open scholarship, we also have to make sure that our assessment practices and the indicators and the databases based on these indicators are also openly accessible. And the UNESCO paper on open science also mentions that open science infrastructures refer to shared research infrastructures, current research information systems, open bibliometrics and scientometric systems for assessing and analyzing scientific domains. And also the Leiden Manifesto on research metrics said that we need an open infrastructure. So keep data collection analytical processes open, transparent, and principled. They say that there's always a kind of openness within the scientometric and bibliometric community, but recent commercial entrants should be held to the same standards. No one should accept a black box evaluation machine. So we have some products which are often used at institutions for research assessments, but they are more or less a black box, and what we really need is open infrastructure also for the assessment. I picked a few initiatives that are striving for that, and most of them are currently focusing on open citations, which means that that citation data should be openly accessible, because metadata of publication is usually open and can be shared or can be reused, but this is not the case for citation data, and they are striving, the Initiative for Open Citations, striving for making citation data, which means references at the end of each article, should be made accessible. This can be done, for example, when publishers are registering for DOIs. There's always a field where you can put in the references, and this can be used. This information will be openly available as the other metadata as well. This can be used to create data collections, as it has been done by the Open Citations Project, and they provide several data collections which can be used for various purposes. And two infrastructure projects are already using this kind of data. For example, OpenLX, which is striving to create a database, or they talking about a catalog of world scholarly papers, research journals, and institutions, and they are all drawing on these free resources. And there is a database called Dimensions, Dimensions is actually, it is a commercial product, but it also has a free version of the database which can be freely used. And they say that Dimension and the data it contains is available at no cost for the scientometric research community. And yeah, there are also APIs where you can draw the data from. So these are two examples for initiatives that are already striving for open infrastructure for research assessment, and I hope that we will see more in the future. So thank you very much for your attention. This is my contact detail. Of course, you can have the slides if you would like to have to. So now it's discussion time, if you would like, and question time, Q&A. If you do not have any questions, or maybe I suggest, or would be interesting to know if your institution has already signed QARA and how the process is at your institution is like implementing QARA principles. Just as suggestions, if you have questions, I'm fine to answer them as well. Thank you very much.
Charlotte.
I'm Charlotte. I come from Elsevier Publishing Company. And I would like to ask you a slightly provocative question. And the reason why I'm doing that is that I actually come before the position I hold now. I used to work as a researcher, and I also work as a librarian. And I can't help thinking, while you go through all the documents, could it be that we are perhaps over-assessing researchers? The reason why I'm asking is that one of the reasons why I actually left the world of research was that I was so sick and tired of being assessed and spending so much time on assessing other researchers. I would assume that about 50% of my precious research time was being used on being assessed and assessing others. Couldn't there be like a reason to stop assessing so much? I've also worked as a librarian, and as a librarian I was never assessed in my entire life. A librarian can do information retrieval his or her entire life, and nobody would ever question the capability. So why do we have to assess researchers constantly?
Yeah, thank you very much, but we are not that far away from each other, I guess. Yeah, because resources are scarce. As I already said, applicants, proposals outnumber the resources that are actually there, and maybe this is the reason why. I'm the first person in the room who says, let researchers do their research. They will. Their motivation is, yeah, they are motivation driven at least, and their research will always lead to an outcome which can solve the problems in the world. So, but thank you for this comment.
One more question.
So far away from, sort of quantitative, Monta's methods. So what do you think, or what's your feeling when you see a signatory actually of these declarations? They get announced. So that's also a big.
Yeah, I think this will be the greatest challenge, and the indicators and the quantitative assessment is still in these papers. But what they say is, in the future we would like to use them more responsibly. Yeah, but I agree with you. This will be the hardest part, I guess, to if you would like to implement the QARA principles, that you really say, okay, we no longer use the impact factor, and we no longer use the rankings, and we don't care about these university rankings and the journal rankings. This will be, I guess, for every institution, for every researcher, this will be the hardest part.
Any other questions? out, please join me again in thanking Jasmin. So we have a short break for tea, coffee, and then we will have panel discussion.